Hi, I'm Addison Gelpey, and welcome to Antiques Masterclass. We're going to do part 2 with John Brandler of What is a Print. The first part was fascinating, and we've got to continue on straight away while we're still here. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy. Thanks, John. Let's continue. That was fascinating. You taught me so much so far. Let's see what else we're going to learn.
This is the front of a book, and of course books are printed, and you can pay many millions for some books. This is an artist called Billy Childish, who is dyslexic, so I'm never quite sure how much of the misspelling is deliberate and how much is genuine. But I like his work. He helped form a group called the Stuckists, who were against Tracy Emin, Damien Hirst, people like that. The art installation of a pile of sand and 3 neon tubes, and oh, isn't it wonderful? It's called Sunday Morning in New York. It's rubbish, you know. Anyway, so he did. He helped found a group who's against the Turner Prize, basically. Okay. And but books are printed, so within books you very often get good illustrations. And the Victorians, before the Victorians, it was always woodblock, which means they literally take the end of a piece of wood. So you've got the grain. Yeah. They cut into the grain and they print. They can print in fairly large numbers doing that. It's always black and white. Sometimes hand-coloured, but it's always black and white. But it'll tell you at the front of the book what it is. You get some beautiful, beautiful works like that. Then the Victorians discovered how to electroplate a copper sheet. And they put steel onto the copper plate. And they realised they could print thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands in some cases from these images. The first, I mean, we take it for granted that books will be illustrated throughout them, but the first books were done in the 1770s. Before that, you had a frontispiece. This happens to be the front cover of the book, but it could easily be within the cover. Mm-hmm. Before that, you had a frontispiece which may or may not reflect the story inside. So Hogarth did a lot of them, for instance. In the 1770s, the most famous book and the most popular book, and the Harry Potter, if you like, of the day, was a book called Tristram Shandy by Lawrence Sterne, which if you ever want to go to sleep, start reading this book. But anyway, and an artist called John Nixon created a set of 12 illustrations for the beginning of each chapter. And this was the first known example of a book having illustrations throughout. Now, of course, we take it for granted. If you've got small children, every book you pick up will be 3/4 illustration and a few lines of text. Mm-hmm. It's gone exactly the other way now. But that was the beginning of it. So these were created by artists. They had to have read the book, and then that drawing, or that in this case the watercolour, was done to give you the whole story
of that chapter.
So it was an amazing mind jump. In those days, obviously, the printing wasn't so sophisticated, so the print runs were fairly small. So those books...
That helped to encourage reading as well. You know what I mean?
It helped to encourage reading. Well, not in the 1770s, because by then either you were wealthy and educated or you were poor and you weren't. So, but by Victorian times then, when suddenly we got a middle class, then they wanted the books. Then they wanted the nicely illustrated books for their libraries. I mean, library only means 20 books. Mm. The word library only means 20 books. So you've got these incredible artworks bound within a book, sitting on somebody's shelf. This is fun. This is by Peter Blake. Everybody knows Peter Blake because he did the Sgt. Pepper's album. And they're great. Again, it was done for EMI. They were the leaders in using artists for record covers. I didn't mention it before, but the very first record cover that Banksy did, if you can find one today, it's £10,000. If you can find a Sgt. Pepper's album from the original print run that Peter Blake signed when it was first done, as opposed to now, again, you're talking 10, 15, 20,000 pounds. And once he's signed more recently, are obviously worth less. But you can tell that because of the published the details on the back of it. Mm-hmm. So that's not a problem. But this he did 2 versions of this. The first one he did in I think it was 77 for Bieber, the shop.
These lithographs?
This is a lithograph on tin,
Okay.
which again is a very technical process because the slightest blemish shows up like a mirror, crack of glass. And because these are tin, and in fact you don't see it on this, but they've all got 4 holes in the corner because these were sold for 19 and sixpence. The Babe rainbow was sold for 19 and sixpence, and you just put it on your wall in your student digs, and that was it. And the edition was 10,000. So then, fairly recently, about 4 or 5 years ago, he did it for a charity, Parent House down in Chichester.
What would 19 and sixpence be in today's money?
19 and sixpence is 97.5p.
Okay, so £1. That's quite a lot of money.
He did this 4 or 5 years ago for Parent House down in Chichester, fundraising for them. This was printed on tin. Again, it's an exact homage, if you like, to his earlier one, which is nice because he's doing it. Yeah. These, I think, were originally something like £200 or £300. They're now about £500-600.
Okay.
But because they were on tin, most of them get damaged, usually where they've been dropped on the corner.
Yeah.
And I was looking on eBay last week, and there was one there, and it's absolutely perfect condition. Only 2 corners are bent. That's not perfect condition. This is Blek Lorat. Blek is the one that started the whole street art thing, which we talked about last time. He did this print. This was his neighbour's dog, in fact. He did the print in 4 different colours, and it sold out in just days. It's a lovely, lovely print. Everybody likes it. People like street art like it. People like dogs like it. It's just one of those things. Everybody likes it. But this was a silk screen, so he could make the first one in black, and then the surround is different colours in the different editions. This is a photographic print. Again, Blek Lorat. He's known as the man who walks through walls. So he'll pick up his suitcase and just materialise somewhere and disappear. So he's walking through the wall. His autobiography is The Man Who Walks Through Walls. And but he did the central part of that as a silk screen. And so many people wanted it. He then did this for an exhibition in Paris, and he did it as a photograph of one of these stencils that he'd put on a wall.
How much are these now?
These are about £450-500 now.
So they're affordable.
They're affordable. And I mean, with prints, the classic is that about a year or so ago, maybe 18 months ago, there was a print of Munch's Picture the Scream, which isn't its real title, but that's what everybody knows about. Anyway, one of about 8 or 10 that are known to exist. And one of the big auction houses in London, I think it was in London, had it, and the estimate was something like £200,000 to £300,000 for a print. You know, big money when you think it's a multiple. It fetched 1.2 million. So people look at things and think, oh, it's a print, throw it. Yeah, well, 1.2 million you wouldn't normally throw out. Everybody knows about Munch now. Everybody knows about Van Gogh prints. I mean, you know, when you think Van Gogh never sold a painting in his life, the only painting that's recorded as having been sold was actually his brother getting a friend to buy it for him, just so he could say, I've sold a painting. Yeah. It's very easy after the event to say, oh yes, I wish I'd bought a Picasso in Paris in the 1950s. I wish I bought a Munch in the 1930s. I wish I'd bought a Rembrandt in 17... I wasn't around in 1650 to buy a Rembrandt print for a shilling. So the important thing is to buy, if you're going to buy prints, buy ones where you know where they're coming from. Make sure they're genuine, because with modern reproduction techniques, photocopiers, it's very easy. I've been caught a couple of times on internet auction sites, to be polite. Somebody's photographed it in a frame behind glass. It looks genuine. The description says this is a print. It is a print, but it's a photocopied print. And it has no value. It is signed, but it's a photocopied signed. One of the pictures on here is by David Hockney, but he signed the printing plate. So every time the printing plate was printed, it bears a signature. The picture doesn't exist in any other form whatsoever, and he made it as a pure print. My view is, does it exist in any other form? So this picture, the middle part exists in another form. It's 5 feet high and it's stuck on a wall in Paris. Actually, it was painted on a wall in Paris. But that image, the whole thing, with the wall and the other graffiti, exists in no other form.
Okay.
This is quite fun. This is by a man called Bruce McLean. And what he's done is he's printed the background, silk screened the background, and the character on the left-hand side. He's put a dollop of white paint or ink onto the paper, and then with a scraper made it into the shape of a person. So although he did 100 of them, every one is very different.
Okay.
This is a print by one of my favourite artists, a man called Carol Waite. He was a friend of Larry. He got Larry into the Royal Academy. He taught Hockney, he taught Kitta, he taught Peter Blake, he taught everybody of note. And I just love it. It was an incident that happened while he was a child. There was a timber yard behind his house, and it looked like the whole street was going to burn down, but the wind changed, and you've got the movement. The things like the reflection of the woman in the window, or the woman on the bike behind you. But this is a reproduction. This is offset litho. So he did a painting. The painting is about 5 or 6 feet square. 5 or 6 feet square. He did the painting. It was then photographed in the 1970s, and a print was made from it. This is a reproduction. It's limited edition, and Carol signed it, and Carol oversaw the production, but it's still a reproduction. Mm-hmm. This is another one of his. This is Holborn Circus, 1947. This print is just under £1,000 now. It was an edition of 250.
You can see how Larry was influenced by him, can't you?
Oh, yeah. This, of course, building was bombed. Gamages on the left-hand side. If anybody's old enough to remember Gamages, Hatton Garden behind to the left. Fetter Lane is still there. These buildings, some of those buildings are still there. The Smithfield Market, they're talking about pulling down now. This was, you can see at an angle, Daily Mirror building coming. Okay. And of course now it's Sainsbury's. And this picture was lent to the original was lent to the Imperial War Museum for a big retrospective of Carol some years ago. This is one of these book illustrations. Chagall did it as a book illustration. So you can have a Chagall, real print, a few £100. Mm-hmm. It's not pencil signed by him, but it's signed by him in the plate. In the plate. So one of the things to look at when you're reading a description is it plate signed? Is it pencil or ink signed? Ink signs, you've got to be careful that it hasn't faded. The best signing you want is pencil signed, because it won't fade. Graphite doesn't fade.
That's a good tip for the viewers, actually.
This is
worth more if it's pencil signed, generally?
Well, you'll get an edition. It'll only be signed in one way. Okay. So you won't get an edition signed in some in ink and some in pencil.
That'll be, yeah.
If you've got that, just leave them alone, because it means there's a problem somewhere. Okay. This is a bad photograph by me. It should be white round the outside, not pink. Okay. But such is life. I probably photographed it under a neon light. This is by an artist called Deface. This is his tag signed down here. Yeah. He was doing an anti-American one at the time. This is the obviously the Statue of Liberty. But this exists in no other form. So this is a real print, silk screen. He did it. He supervised it. Anything he didn't physically do, he was supervising. And I think he actually does a lot of it himself. But I like the humour. The street artists, I like the humour. There you go. Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it good? Is it bad? Do you like the colours? That's it.
Master Hurst.
Mr. Hurst. He did an edition of 125, but everyone is unique. The colours are in different places. Okay. So it's a multiple, yeah, but it's a unique print. But how can it be a multiple and a print and unique? So he's stretching about. He's playing with the concepts. He's playing with the ideas.
Keeps the value. I mean, what would that be worth?
This is worth £20,000 because you've got a unique Damien Hirst. You will never see that again. The nice thing about anything that's unique, and this can go down to the image or just the numbering, is it can never be stolen effectively, because if they steal it, they can't sell it. Mm-hmm. We had a lady in America, bought a print, used PayPal to get her money back, even because she said she hadn't got it. So we said, okay, you haven't got it. She was very aggressive and rude, so I won't repeat it all. And
thank you.
Her point was, I'm 5,000 miles away, what was I going to do about it? And the way she did it made me very suspicious. So I said, right, well, what I'll do is I'll notify the FBI and Scotland Yard, because I thought she'd have heard of Scotland Yard. She was in San Francisco, that this has been stolen. Obviously, it's signed, it's numbered, so that makes it unique. So when your postman goes to sell it in 5, 10 or 20 years' time, as it's been recorded as stolen, they will be prosecuted. Strangely enough, it turned up on her doorstep the following morning, and she sent me the money back. Because it's unique.
Yeah.
So you can track it. So it's as from that point of view, it's as valuable as a painting. It's the reproductions, the 5,000 from the Tate Gallery.
That is. Yeah.
That are not reproduced. This isn't signed in pencil, but this is by Damien Hirst, and I brought this with me because this is a brilliant piece of graphics. He made it as a print. It's the size of a poster, like a film poster, but he printed it in reverse. So the lettering, so when you turn the sheet of paper over, it looks as if you're looking through the paper.
Oh, okay, very clever.
Very, very clever thinking. It's almost as if they've got solid lettering and put paper around it. I don't know how they worked it out, but it's a very, very witty thing to do. I thought it was just so clever. There's a lot about Damien Hirst I don't like, but when he gets it right, it's brilliant. Again, another Damien Hirst record cover. Kate Moss. The records, because it was a small edition of only 666, being Damien Hirst, they're on the other side of the record. It looks very much the same, but round the black line, it's signed and dated. This is a scratched signature. This is Kate Moss. I think this is just fun. Nobody bothers listening to the record. Yeah. Don't forget about that. But because it was a small edition, and when they do a small, what I would call a print run, but it's obviously a technical manufacturing term for it, whatever they do, they're made by hand. And instead of being plain white, each record has got a few coloured granules put in when it's being made. So you can't see it on here, but you get a rivering of colour.
So a shimmer
of colour in the record. So each one is unique. But again, I sell this as an edition of 666. The record sleeve is numbered. It's not pencil signed. It's just a sticker numbered, so it can be traced. But to me, it's an edition of 666, and each record is unique, rather than a unique record 600 plus times. It's how you phrase it. This is a CD he did
of one of his
spin paintings. There were originally 10,000 made. So if you want to be pedantic, a limited edition. There were 10,000 made.
10,000 CDs made.
10,000 CDs, but most of them got crushed because there was a problem with one of the companies involved in the process went into liquidation, I'm told. And so most of them were crushed. It was only the ones that had already been sold that got out onto the market.
Okay.
So these sell for £75 because it's a limited edition Damien Hirst. This is the David Hockney I was talking about. I don't know if you can see it, but down here on the screen it looks like a blur, but that's the signature.
Okay, printed in.
And this was done. Carol Waite, I mentioned before, invited Hockney to put 3 pictures into the Royal Academy before he was an academician. And he put 3 very large prints in. Now we're talking 1987. And they were between £10,000 and £12,500. They were the size of 2 of these panels.
Okay,
yeah.
Big.
Big prints. Anyway, the Royal Academy sold 1 copy of one of the prints. And the president of the Royal Academy was Sir Roger de Grey. And we didn't see eye to eye. But anyway, he made sure you knew his name was Sir Roger de Grey. And and in case you didn't get the idea, he used to walk around with a medallion, 6 inches wide, saying President, Royal Academy. Right. So Sir Roger gave Hockney a lecture on how to be a successful artist. Now, at the time, a Roger de Grey painting was 5,000 plus, which was big money in 1987. So that happened in 1986. So in 1987, Hockney put 10,000 of these in at 18p and sold out. Within minutes, they'd all gone. Most people folded them and put them in their back pocket. I was very lucky. I managed to get some, and I've kept them. They've all got the centre fold down the middle.
Okay.
And I've got some, and I've kept them flat.
And the 18p is now worth?
Best part of £200. Okay. Oh, and the Roger de Grey at £5,000? That's also worth about £200. So don't buy by name, buy what you like. And in percentage terms, these are probably outperform most of the other things you're going to see.
This is a common theme through all the experts that we have coming in here. Everybody says, and I'm sure you've hopefully got the point now, that if you want to buy something, if you like it, then buy it. If you love it, then buy it. If it means something to you and your heart.
What I would say is don't just buy it if you like it. Buy it if you like it, and there are two routes to go. One, you trust the person that's selling it to you, or two, go away and do your homework. Find out why you're paying X amount of money.
Of course,
for
always
it.
do your homework, but if you love it, then that's the starting point.
That's the starting point.
That's the starting point.
Say to the dealer, or whether it's if it's on eBay, contact the seller and say, why is it this price? And if they're a genuine seller, they'll tell you. If it's a dealer, they'll love to tell you because it's their passion. It's what we do, you know.
And if you're doing your research and something seems to be too good to be true, then do a bit more research because...
Well, we had a conversation with the FBI about this lady in America, and they told me at the time they set up a website, and the website is ifitstogoodtobetrue.com.
Oh, really?
You know, if it's a scam, if it's too good to be true, it's a scam. Yeah. If I said to somebody, you've got to buy this today, it's £200 because in 5 years' time it's going to be 20,000, I'm either a liar or a fool.
Yeah.
If I say to you, if you like it, buy it, that's the right money for it today, but where it will be in 5 years' time or 10 years' time, nobody will know.
Who knows?
That's why I said, one is, do you trust the dealer? Or two, do your research, or do both. Dealers get caught sometimes, you know. So it's having nice things. It doesn't matter that it's a print. That exists in no other form. It was only done as a print. It's reproduced in his book, Hockney on Art, over a double-page spread, so he's obviously pleased with it. He's proud of it. It raised money for the Royal Academy. It raised money for Bradford. This is another one he did in the newspaper, and it's just called Lemon and Fruit, and Tree or something. But why not use a newspaper? Why not use every medium that's available to an artist? It doesn't have to be, like Peter Blake, it doesn't have to be a great deal of money to buy good art. History tells you if it's going to be a lot of money or not. This is defaced again, Superman. I just think it's a great spin on the idea. This is a print.
Can you go back? Can you just go back to that again?
Of course.
To show it to the viewer full screen, actually,
Okay.
but
it's
great fun.
It's a bit of fun, but it's this artist Deface. He's famous for this particular variations on this particular theme of Superman, not quite so super. This is a print from original artwork. This is the part of Doctor Who. Hence the TARDIS in the bottom, right? And this was one of the stories from a group of 4 stories called Voyager. They put the 4 stories together and published a book. But it starts off as artwork, then it's photographed, then it was first drawn in black and white, then they decided they wanted to make it into a book. So they got another artist actually to colour it. Then they photographed it again and made the coloured book. So there are different stages sometimes in getting the finished article. So you could find a print of this in black and white, you could find a print of this in colour, you could find it in a book, or you could find the original artwork, painting. This is another of my bad photographs. This is a very, very small picture. This is an original lithograph, like I discussed before, by a man called Edward Borden, who was the master of lithography. This is from the 1930s. Materials were scarce, but he could make the smallest amount of materials the most beautiful artwork. He did a series. This is from a series of 16 that he did of life in an English village. And what was amazing was that he had the foresight to record it at the time. And in the 1930s, anybody going to around the village would have seen all of those 16 illustrations. And now, of course, it's history.
Yeah. So
there's a baker's, there's a schoolroom, there's inside of a church, there's the blacksmith, the car mechanic, all sorts of things that you just never see today. This was done for an opening of a gallery in London. Again, Time Out did the poster without all the wording as a charity fundraiser. And Gilbert and George, they are amazing.
This is what gave Banksy the idea to do his self-portrait as well.
Yes.
And this was the first one that Time Out did
yes.
that with Gilbert and George.
And they did 1,000 of these. 500 of them were given out at the event. 500 of them were.
They printed signatures, or they probably.
Gilbert and George are wonderful. They either don't sign it at all, or they sign it by hand. This was done in a newspaper, hence the folds. And again, most of these things get destroyed. So the ones that survive in good condition, although they're printed, and although the original print run was quite large, the numbers that survive are getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
They're quite rare.
This is one of two that Gilbert and George did for the Serpentine Gallery in 2002. And the Serpentine Gallery...
I sold a whole collection quite recently, actually. They were sold for sort of £400, £300, £500, sort of. But they're fun, they're bright, and they're collectible.
And this is the polite one. There is another pair to it, which I didn't bother bringing. But what was nice about these was the Serpentine Gallery, which, let's face it, is basically government funded. The Serpentine Gallery said, they always say to their artists, to help fund the exhibition, we want to do an edition of prints. And Gilbert and George don't do them. So the Serpentine said, well, look, if we do some posters, will you sign them? I said, yes. So they did 6,000 posters of each of the two images. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the show, they rang me up and they said, we've got a couple of thousand left. Do you want to buy them as a job lot? And I said, yes. Okay. I had to pay up front, fair enough. And then it was a case of, oh, no, you can't collect them now because we're doing something. You can't collect them now because we're taking an exhibition down. You can't collect them now because we're putting an exhibition up. All this sort of thing. And after about 6 weeks, I said, look, it was ended up at 4,000 posters because they found some more. But 4,000 posters. I'll come up 7 o'clock in the morning, be with you early one morning, 40 packs, 100 in a pack, put them in the back of the car, go. Oh, yes, you were dealing with Melissa. Yes. Melissa's left. So? And when somebody says, didn't Melissa tell you, it's always going to be bad news. Gilbert and George, being perfectionists, had insisted that every print, poster, had gone in a separate cardboard tube before it left their studio. So I didn't buy 4,000 prints, I bought 4,000 cardboard tubes.
Oh my goodness, so you needed an Arctic lorry
to move them, yes. And that's the bit that Melissa had forgotten to tell me. But they had spent...
Have you sold most of them?
Oh, we're selling them all the time. They're about £35 each.
Okay.
That's unframed. And they're great things. But Gilbert and George spent a week signing them. Every single poster was from the printers, team of people in front of Gilbert. Somebody handed it to George, and then it was put in a tube. So every single one he signed. This one is both of them are in gold pen. Some of them are both in silver, and some of them have got one in gold and one in silver. Just whenever the pen ran out, they just grabbed the next one. But they spent a week doing it. Now, the Serpentine knew what they were doing. The Serpentine, I personally think, were trying to get them to make an etching. And they said, no, we'll sign the posters. You put the posters in front of us, we'll sign them. They stuck to their word. Mm-hmm. I think the Serpentine were a bit naughty. But I'm not complaining because I've got them. You know.
Perfect.
But they're fun and they're nice. This is another one. He did it. This was the ultimate. This was go online and download it from the newspaper. Yeah. And you downloaded it as 9 separate pictures. Yeah. Assembled it yourself.
I sold one of those, actually. I sold one of those, literally with the collection that I had. And he'd put it together and put it all in a big frame, made it quite big, actually. Yes. I think it made about £400 or £500 again.
But this was downloaded off the internet.
Yeah. Not unsigned, but it was a limited edition once. Yeah.
This, again, people think if it's printed, it's got to be on paper. This is a print by, I forgot the artist now. But anyway, there were 4 glasses done for Pier. Oh, this is Roderick Buchanan, that's right. And this is a still from one of his videos. But it's printed on glass, which is quite a technical thing to do. Definitely. So that because this glass is curved, Pier, everybody knows that shape of a Pier glass. Mm-hmm. It's famous. So it's shaped that way, and of course it's curved round. So to print that on there, it was a very technical printing technique. Yeah. And they did this to celebrate, I think it was 10 years of Beck sponsoring art exhibitions. This is Kathleen Hale, who's famous for Orlando the Marmalade Cat. And what happened with that was that she was at a dinner party. literally just after the war, and saying what she did and what she wanted to do. And the editor of Country Life said, these are wonderful, but we can't print them. It's too complicated and too costly. So she said, what I will do is I will do 4 drawings for each colour, for each picture. But each drawing will become the printing plate. And they were working with a printer in Ipswich called Cowell's, Cowell. And they invented, Cowell's and Kathleen Howell between them invented a thing called plastic cowl. So it's a plastic sheet that she did 4 drawings on, and each drawing was a separate colour. And that's how you get the multicoloured.
And that's how that,
was done. And then very quickly after that, they invented photolithography, and plastic cowl never took off. Okay. But this was important in the history of printing. And this is one of the plastic owls. So you can see this is the black with the writing on it. And they used blue to write on printing plates because it isn't picked up in the process. This, I just had to include this, although it's my bad photograph again. It's pink, but it's not quite as pink as that. This is the Pier at Westminster. This is by a man called Leigh Kenyon. And
Leigh Kenyon,
Kenyon. And in fact, he's being celebrated this week, which tells you when this is being recorded, because Leigh was one of the 4 forgers that made the documents for the Great Escape.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I bought these prints, and then I started to do some research, and we actually gave a set of 4 to the Stalag 13 or whatever it is museum in Germany.
Well done.
And there's an association of ex-prisoners, and they said, oh, could we buy one? And I said, which one do you want? And they said, well, whichever one's cheapest. And I said, well, it doesn't matter because I'll just give you the set. They belong there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, well done.
The original book on the Great Escape has his illustrations in, pen and ink drawings very often. And he then went on to, art was always his passion, but he then went on to be a test pilot for helicopters to work out how low the helicopter could be without it crashing. If the engine stalled...
That's a safe long-term job, isn't it?
Well, he actually died at a good old age, but he was a test pilot for helicopters where you switch off the engine and you can restart it before you hit the ground.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
But he wasn't allowed to take part in the escape because forging under those conditions damaged his eyesight too much. So he wasn't allowed to escape. That's what kept him alive, because of course they shot
50 of them, didn't they?
Well, no, they shot 47 out of 50. Sorry. So that's what kept him alive. And he was I think personally he was a great man as well as a good artist. So I had to have one. This is a piece of fun. This is a print by a gentleman, and he was very famous in his own right. He was asked to design the lights at Blackpool one year. And being very flamboyant himself, he created 6 of these, and the burlesque girl on the left, the light is 12 or 15 feet high, and then the flowers and strands go across to the middle of the road where there's another lamppost, and then it's reversed. So every place, there's 4 of them.
Okay.
And these are by Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen, who actually I consider to be a very, very good artist, but people don't see his artwork. They see
He's a flamboyant interior decorator.
Yeah, but he actually is brilliant. And when I was talking to him...
Which would make sense as well.
Yeah. And, he understands the history of art, he understands the creation of art.
And that's very him.
And that's a thing he did for a charity down in Cornwall. And because it was a charity and the village, it was to raise money for the village hall. The village hall is literally next to the sea. It's probably been washed away now by now. So he did a mermaid.
Beautiful. And he is his art that he does here, I think that's really sums Lawrence up.
Nice.
That, really.
It's very, very nice.
Who's that by?
This is quite famous. It's an art. This is the painting. You can see the sellotape marks from Justification. But this is by a lady called Marion Wilson. And she's got work in the Victoria and Albert Museum and things like that. But again, a lot of your viewers will know, before Clinton cards, there was another one. What was it called? I can't remember either. It's terrible. And she met this gentleman. It'll come to me on the train going home. that she met this gentleman at a dinner party, and she was only about 4 foot nothing, and it was a double barrel name, wasn't it? Not Clinton. It was not Clinton. It was anyway. She met this guy at a dinner party in about 1950, and he said, "I want to start a new company. You're an artist, great. Do one for me. That'll be your test piece, and I want to do a thing, greetings cards, like I've seen in America." And so she did one, which I've got, and it's named like Gordon Russell, something like that. He became a multi-millionaire on the strength of these cards. They were everywhere. But Marion Wilson cards, people actually went out and bought Marion Wilson cards and framed them up, a lot of them that sort of size.
Fantastic.
And we bought a collection from her, and we sold one. The guy came in, was having a look through the folio, and I'll buy it. He didn't even ask how much it was. I told him how much it was. He said, "Yep, I'll have it. And I'll have that one as a pair to it." I said, "Great, you've seen her work before?" "Oh, yes. It was the first card I bought my girlfriend."
Oh, really?
And we've been married for 45 years. And he bought this card. Gordon Fraser.
Gordon Fraser.
That was it. Gordon Fraser cards.
Before my time.
And he made he was the forerunner of card shops as we know them today. But he drove his Rolls Royce into a lamppost in France one day.
And that was the end of him.
And that's why Clinton cards took them over. But they had the most amazing archive as well. So again, you get a painting, you get a print from it. That's another one of hers. That's just almost a self.
Oh, that's fun.
Look at this, Michael Jackson
Marion
records.
Wilson. She's still around, isn't she? Does she do some? Does she do dressmaking as well?
Who?
Marion Wilson.
She did fabric design. I don't know if she
That's
did
right,
dressmaking, but she did fabric design. Limited edition record, but printed.
Yep.
And in fact, the way the record is made is virtually a printing process. Photographic print by an artist. This I love. This is again, street artist, Nick Walker. This is from a series called The Morning After, as in the morning after the night before. And the gentleman on the left, usually in a bowler hat, has done the vandalism. And you can see, if you look closely, where his hand is touching the lamppost, there's the red paint. So that's the red paint where he's been painting, where the paint is dripped down the Empire State Building. There's two versions of this. One is multicoloured. The much rarer one just has red paint.
Very clever. You've got to look at it a little bit before you realise.
You've got to look. You've got to use your brains.
I like that.
This is a Peter Blake that we mentioned earlier on. This is from a series of 8 he did for Alice in Wonderland. He did it as a book illustration. He did it as a fine art print as well.
Litho again?
Again, offset lithograph. You can work out who that is. That's a Picasso. Mm-hmm. This is a lino cut. So again, it won't last forever. You'll make 100, 200, 300, something like that from a lino cut before the edges start to fray. But you can't go back and rub it out. Once you've cut into that lino, it's permanent. Yeah. It's like a hammer and chisel. So that's why I put that there. This is one of the very famous portraits Picasso did. Lovely, colourful. That's about 300, 400, 500 pounds in some forms. Signed, 50, 60,000. So are you buying a signature or are you buying the image? Again, landscape by him. Look how simple that is. But you can see every cut that he's made. Mm-hmm. This is an offset litho of a David Hockney. This was done initially as a print run of 1,000 with overprinting for a gallery in the West End. And they kept some without the overprinting, and this is one of them. But it's still an addition of 1,000, even though 800 have been overprinted, 900 have been overprinted. It's an addition of 1,000. Mm. Most of them then have additional work done on them. Posters, these are all printed. These have no significant value. If I hear somebody's got a child, I just send them one. This is just sort of A4 size. This I like. This was an Andy Warhol that was done with Diana, and then it was used as an exhibition poster. So it was a limited edition exhibition poster from a very, very limited Andy Warhol.
Okay.
Pure Evil, I've talked about him before. This is Ava Gardner, and it's a silk screen. It's an edition of 100 or 150.
How much would one of those be for Pier?
That's £150.
Okay.
So they're not a lot of money. This is roughly 72 centimetres square. 72 by 73, that sort of thing. They vary slightly in sizes. He did this in 3 different colourways. He is selling via the Saatchi Gallery. Can't get enough of his work. This I like because it shows this is neon. It's called Neon Bunny, but it's actually on a green cellulose sheet. The black is printed. So it's
just a 2-colour.
It's just a 2-colour. In fact, it's a 1-colour because the green is the background colour. And I just think it's lovely. And yet it looks like you're looking into one of these infinity mirrors. But it is a print.
Who's the artist again?
That's Pure Evil again.
Okay.
So's that. That's Jackie Kennedy. That's a small one. Although he's done an edition of 50, you can see this is number 1 over 50. It's signed, it's numbered. But all 50, every one of those 50 is slightly different because it's done by hand. It's where he's put the ink in the top of the silk, the cage, squeezed it through. And because he's not a machine, the pressure's going to be different. So everyone is slightly different.
Yeah.
So, but what I like about Pure Evil is that he's got integrity. So he doesn't say I've done 50 prints. He says I've done 1 print 50 times, and there are differences. Yeah. That's another one. This is great because it's London Underground had an exhibition recently at their with the Underground Museum, and it was called Art on the Underground. And of course, street art is an underground movement because it's an illegal movement. Started off illegally painting on trains. So he's taken a print and put a painting over it. So mixed media, painting, print, how do you want to title it? What do you call it? To me, it's a print with a painting over. This is what we used as a Christmas card. He did that as a painting. We then got it photographed and made into a high quality Christmas card, but the edition was only 500.
Okay.
So sometimes Christmas cards, this almost harks back to Marion Wilson, where people collect a card. That's where you can see where the ink merged. He used 2 colours, but it's still a print. Again, 29 over 50, and every one is very different. But it is still a print. This is his most famous image, the Hackney Looter. It's just great. He brought it out at the time of that sporting event, which we're not allowed to name because otherwise they get upset. And
really?
Oh, seriously, yeah, they get very upset if you use that particular word. Of course, this isn't that event because the 5 rings aren't connected, and they did check it out. He put this onto 2 walls in London, and it got 2.3 million hits in 5 days.
Wow.
This print was initially published at £150, and then now £1,900.
In a year?
How long is it since the Olympics?
2 years nearly, yeah.
This is another Banksy. I love it because it's a record cover again, but he did it in 2 different colourways. So the front is blue, or in my opinion, the front is blue because I like the blue one. Other people like the yellow. You can frame it either way. You've got 2 pictures for the price here. Again, it's a couple of £100. It's a limited edition. It's a Banksy. If you want to pay £10,000, you can get one with a signature on it. But so the difference is you're paying £9,800 for a signature. This is another one he did. The print of that by Banksy, which is quite big. It's probably best part of a metre square. Without the writing on it, is anywhere between £35,000 and £45,000. So £200 for something 12 inches square in old money, or enough to buy you a nice car. Again, another one. He did this in 4 different colourways, and I just think they're great. It shows the humour of the artist, but it's an affordable print. It's a limited edition, affordable print. Another one by him. This is by an American artist called Tuttle, and I don't see the skill in that. I can see the marketing in it because he's relatively famous, and I think there's one of these in the Tate Gallery. But, is this the right order, the wrong order? No. Basically, who cares?
There's a lot
but
of
that's £1,000.
Yeah.
And of course, taking it to the extreme, you then get something like this, which is an Andy Warhol poster, but because he signed it, it's worth money. almost like the Gilbert and Georges, except that Andy Warhol didn't sign many of them.
Yep, so they're worth a lot more.
So they're worth a lot more. But again, you know, to buy this as a painting or to buy this as the print without the lighting, as a silk screen, which he didn't do anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, he had the factory. I mean,
There's a series of 10 of these, aren't there?
Yeah, there's a series of 10 of these. You can buy the reproductions made by a group called Sunday Be Morning, which is so they look the same as the originals. They're just stamped differently on the back. Between £500 and £1,000, depending as to how they're framed. Okay. But something like this, where he signed it, is relatively scarce, but it's still affordable. This is a couple of thousand.
Okay.
This is another one. This is from a series, Reigning Queens. He did these as posters for a gallery in Denmark. And they bought the Borge Bergensen Gallery. And they were the publishers of the very famous print of Ingrid Bergman. They got Ingrid Bergman to Warhol, and then they had a long-term relationship with Warhol. So this was signed specifically for this one gallery. There you go. So what's a print? Anything. But they are all limited editions. There is no such thing as an unlimited edition. It can be open-ended. It means that the printers can go back to it again and print off another 50, 100, depends if they're signed and numbered, legally. But, I mean, one publisher got into a great deal of trouble and I think went bankrupt because they were doing editions by an artist, selling out and then changing the size of the print by 1/4 of an inch and then doing the same image again.
Oh, okay.
Now, legally, it's different, but people really aren't that stupid. So morally, it was wrong. And I don't know how they described it. Somewhere in the small print it said something, but you know.
Well, you've given us some really good pointers, John, and some fascinating images there with some great insight into the different artists and what the different prints are. We're going to put a little link at the bottom there to give the grading of different prints, which we'll do, which we'll put on the end. Literally following up right now.
It's not finite, and there's all grades in between each one, but it's a basic thing. Did the artist make it? Did the artist have it made under his supervision, or is it the Sunday Times? But even the Sunday Times is switched off.
John, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for coming in and imparting your fantastic information over to our viewers. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time with the next edition of Antiques Masterclass with another expert talking about little tips and their experience. Thank you very much. I've been Addison Gelpey, and thank you very much, John. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.